I left my husband. In fact, it took him going away for a long weekend to realize how much happier and at peace I felt without him around. At first, the split was amicable, but looking back, I think he was just waiting for me to come rushing back to him once I realized my mistake. When that didn't happen and he could see I was actually serious about building a new life for myself, a switch flipped. We only spoke when he needed something from me, and eventually that stopped too. Enough about him, though. I am now 42, happier and healthier, and more satisfied than I've ever been in my whole life. I picked me, and that was the best choice I could have ever made. I lived alone for the first time, and my God, the peace of having my own space, unrivaled. I ended up staying in that apartment for 5 years, not a moving box in sight. I put art on the walls, I knew my neighbors, I made a home. I grew my career and went back to school, made friends, and built a little community. I've done a ton of therapy and realized that the abusive patterns my parents created in childhood were just repeating with my ex. I fell in love, a real love, a supportive love that encourages growth and security. All of those things have created a life that's more rewarding than I ever thought was possible for myself. I've gone through some really shitty times too. Illness, cancer scares, deaths, loss, but I have no idea how I would have come out on the other side without the community I'd built around me. Even something as simple as people at your local coffee shop recognizing you is a comfort after feeling adrift and alone for so long. Anyway, if I were to respond to myself from 7 years ago, this is exactly what I said. Leave the loser. He doesn't care about you. He never did. He only cares about what you can do for him. And now that you aren't serving him, well, yeah, just go. You are capable of doing the difficult things, and you are worthy of the work it takes to accomplish them. Trust your abilities, trust your gut. It's been screaming at you for years now, honey. Life can be so much more than you've experienced, but you have to make it happen for yourself. TLDR, left my husband, happier than ever. Well said. My 21 female, boyfriend, 25 male, is going on a week-long trip to Italy. How do I not resent him? So my boyfriend of 2 years, along with 7 of his co-workers, got invited by his work to go on a week-long trip to Italy. Everything is completely paid for. Meals, flights, excursions. They're renting a private yacht. They're staying on a mansion on the beach. Literally a trip of a lifetime, and he didn't have to pay a dime. When he first told me, I was honestly anxious because 7 months ago he had previously did something to break my trust, and we were trying to build that back. Come about a week away from his trip to Italy, I found out that he had an option to bring a +1. Expenses all completely paid for as well. Literally, all their other guys were going to invite their girlfriends or wives. I was the only one left out. That completely changed how I felt. It wasn't just a work trip anymore. It felt very personal and left me wondering why he didn't want to invite me while all the other men had no problem bringing their girlfriends and wives along. When I brought it up, he said he didn't know it would mean that much to me. And he views it as a networking and making connections trip and doesn't want to have the worry about keeping me entertained while he was busy networking and building connections. Or something along those lines. He told me I would basically just be sitting in our room the whole time, which at least I'd be sitting in our room in a huge mansion on the beach in a private yacht getting fed pasta every night, instead of, just sitting at the house. I feel so hurt and excluded, and now he's living his life across the world with him and a bunch of other happy couples while I'm at home trying not to spiral. I honestly feel a lot of resentment building. He knew I was anxious of him going because of him previously breaking my trust, and he knew he had the option to invite me but didn't. He said he never considered how I'd feel and was thinking of it from a different perspective. Outside of him breaking my trust, we have had an incredible relationship. We never fight. He pays for all my schooling, bills, anything I want. Most importantly, he's my best friend, and I don't want to destroy what we have here. The question is, am I being over emotional, or is this a real red flag? How do I process this and not let it turn into long-term resentment? TLDR, my boyfriend of 2 years is going on a 2-week work trip to Italy along with 7 of his coworkers, all of whom brought their girlfriends or wives. I was the only one left out. Now I feel hurt, excluded, and unsure how not to resent him. I, female, 24, feel like my boyfriend, 27 male, loves me but despises me as a person, and I'm very confused. I have been with him for over 5 years now. We are really different people. Not the same interests, not the same social needs, not the same schedules, you name it. I always thought this difference was enriching. I always saw that he had trouble understanding me, my sociability, my spontaneity, my need for independence, and wanting to have fun and be active, or the fact that I'm a really open person with my emotions and sensitivity. But recently I'm starting to think that he actually hates the person that I am. Whenever I do stuff that benefits me entirely, like travel, meeting new people, getting a job, a change in my appearance in any way, he gets sour. If I'm excited about something in my personal life, like something new or an accomplishment, he will shun me or shut me off by not asking that many questions, for instance. At his best, he will share the excitement, but will always end up bringing it up again in a bad light when he's in a bad mood later on. Sometimes I feel I annoy him for being talkative and demanding clear communication. The weirdest thing of all is that it feels like he loves the relationship, though. He will still give me lots of affection, we have great intimacy, he wants to be invested, he talks about creating a future with me, but over the last 5 years, we of course have had huge arguments that ended up in considering breaking up, and he always begged me to stay like everything depended on it. I'm just really confused. It feels like he's in love with me truly, but actually deeply despises me as a person. Back in our early years, I was really cutting myself off to be overly present with him, making sacrifices to appeal to his character and to adapt to him. Lately, I've been investing in myself a lot more and listening to my needs before I listen to his. Something I hardly ever did. I feel happier and it shows. But it feels like the more I feel happy, the more his resentment is just growing towards me. I try to communicate around that, but he shuts off. I feel stuck and confused. Why would you want to be with someone that you dislike so much? I just don't know what to do at this point. TLDR, my boyfriend seems really in love with me and is affectionate, but seems to resent me for being who I am when I show my true self. Edit, thank you for all the replies. Some of them truly made me tear up. This is all making me take a huge step back and reconsider a lot of things. This is hard as hell, it hurts a lot, but I will be prioritizing myself from now on. At least I'll try. Thanks again. My 36-year-old husband doesn't want me, a 31-year-old female, to go back to college for more education. My husband doesn't want me to go back to college for more education. We have children together, and they're all of school age now, and I'm a stay-at-home mom and bored out of my mind. I have a bachelor's degree that I don't use and would like to become an RN. For a while now, I've entertained the idea of having my own home bakery and selling baked goods, but the more I think about it, the more I'd like to get more education instead. I'm craving human interaction and having something no one can take away from me. I brought this up to him the other day. He came home saying his friend's wife's work is hiring a driver to deliver baked goods to clients, and he thought I could use this as an opportunity to start giving out treats to people that I make. To be honest, even if I was to entertain having a bakery right now, the idea just didn't thrill me. So I said, "That's funny you say that because I'm actually thinking about going to nursing school instead." He immediately became standoffish and said, I don't think you'd be any good at that, but okay. This immediately upset me. I thought if anything he'd be a little hesitant because of finances, but not outright. He says he doesn't think I'm capable of going. He then said, "I don't think I feel comfortable paying for you to go to school when you can't even stick with doing something for more than a year." I said I'd take loans out for myself. Becoming an RN should be around or less than 20K where I live. And he did not like that. He said, "You can do whatever you want, I don't care," very indifferently. I asked him why he doesn't think I'd be any good at being a nurse, and he said, "You realize you have to apply to get into nursing and take tests. What schools would even accept you? You aren't even good at school, you hated college." I said, "Yeah, I mean, that was 10 plus years ago. I had no clue what I wanted to do, but now I have kids and I want to make something of myself. I don't understand why you'd think I'd be bad at this." He said, "I don't think you'd make it through classes, and you wouldn't make it through working odd shifts and night shifts making only 25 an hour." I said, "I just want your support. I'm blown away by this reaction." And he said, "I don't know how I can be more supportive. I'm telling you I don't care. Go do whatever you want." That hurt. I left and had a cry for a few minutes, and we haven't talked since. I keep thinking I'm just a failure, and maybe he's right that I'm basically too dumb to go. Or at least that's how this interaction is making me feel. I just want something more for myself. I want to be educated. I want my kids to see that mom made something of herself. To where if I ever needed to provide for us, I could. I'm just so thrown off by his lack of support. I mean, his demeanor went cold as soon as we started talking about it. Not even a peak of interest. What is going on here? Do I go to school anyways? Should I, a 40-year-old male, be upfront that I'm avoiding my family because of my sister's racist fiance? So the people involved in this are me, my wife, my 4 kids, a 12-year-old, 4-year-old, and 2 infants, my sister and her 2 girls, an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, my sister's fiance, who is unrelated to the girls, he's in his 40s, and my parents, both in their 60s. Basically, when I went to dinner for Easter this past spring, my sister's fiance had some bizarre and racist comments at my 9-year-old niece, though also directed to the group at large. He kept insisting to the 9-year-old that she should avoid sleeping with black people because black men will leave her once she gets pregnant. He said it like 4 times. I think he thought he was being edgy. For further clarification, we're all white. This isn't a topic of conversation. He just kept shoehorning this comment in. He said it several times at the dinner table. At one point in time, I criticized my son for spending the entire visit on his phone, and he needed to socialize, which I instantly regretted, since my sister's fiance immediately started chatting him up. In a similar situation as before, partially to my 12-year-old, and partially to the group, he started to talk to my son about Jews. But it didn't get his attention, so he didn't elaborate on it. I also noticed the 9-year-old expressed an opinion on trans people, announcing she wouldn't allow any children she has to be trans, which the fiancé clearly was proud that she felt that way. I gotta be honest, I don't want to be around him anymore, period, and I absolutely don't want him around my kids. I expressed my concerns to my mother the next day, but she shrugged it off, insisting it's okay because he has black friends. I've been keeping polite with my sister and family and backing out of invitations to dinner, but I'm not sure how much longer I can politely back off without explaining. Additionally, I'm concerned about how ingratiated my mother is with him. They regularly have dinner together, celebrate holidays without my family, and go on vacations and trips together. For example, the previous Easter dinner landed in Good Friday. There wasn't any Easter eggs or bunnies. The food was picked up by my sister's fiance and his family's traditional Good Friday meal, and overall it was much more religious than it's ever been in that household. Which is fine. My parents should be allowed to run a dinner however they want. But once my children left, my sister and her family spent the night and celebrated a traditional Easter. Chocolate bunnies, eggs, gifts, without us. They celebrated Christmas together privately on Christmas Day, while the family Christmas was pushed to a week before February. Last Christmas, I actually was in a fight with my sister, and my mother claimed to be hosting 2 private parties to make her more comfortable. But I found out later that my sister's Christmas party included my half-sister, while my Christmas party was canceled because my kids caught a cold and they didn't want to get sick. I mention all of that not because I'm resentful, though I clearly am, but to reinforce the fact that I'm concerned that if I don't tolerate this man, that we will be excluded from family events. What should we do? I really don't like this guy, but playing nice and avoiding them will only get us so far. While being upfront will essentially destroy my relationship with my sister and parents. TLDR, my sister's fiance is being creepy and racist, but if I call them out on it, I might get turned into the black sheep of the family. What do I do? I'm a 45-year-old woman torn between my husband, 41 male, and parents, both 80. I often feel torn between my husband and my parents, and the little things seem to blow up into big things. We all live in a small town. For Father's Day, my parents invited us for dinner, along with my sister and her family. My husband wants to stay home with our daughter, 6-year-old female, so I suggested to my parents that we spend time together on Saturday. After several phone calls exploring other options, they've said that they don't want to negotiate and they can't do Saturday. But we are still invited for Sunday, and they hope we can come but understand if we can't. This is not an isolated incident. When planning family activities, they are offended if I ask for any changes. Part of me understands. They are inviting us over. It's their house. They can call the shots, but sometimes it doesn't work for me, and I wish they could be more flexible. It seems to be take it or leave it. Accept what they propose or nothing. They also do lots of nice things for us, though. They ordered a cake for Sunday with an extra piece of another cake for my daughter because she doesn't like the flavor of the big cake. They also helped with childcare and home improvement expenses. My husband is also often inflexible. I understand why my husband just wants to relax on Father's Day, but I just wish there was a way to spend time with both my husband and my father. Do I just not see my dad on Father's Day? He's 80. I don't know how many more days he has left. Do I beg my husband to go to my parents' house? Do I drop by my parents' house during the day instead? They rejected this idea, so it could make them angry. But TLDR, I want to spend Father's Day with my husband and my dad, but they have other ideas. I feel like I'm trying to make everyone happy, and everyone is just upset. Nothing belongs to me anymore. I'm a 24-year-old male, and me and my girlfriend, 23-year-old female, have been together for about a year and a half now. And though things started off pretty strong, we've had multiple events in our lives over the course of our relationship that has changed us for the better or worse. Most recent one was her deciding she's had enough at home and needed to move out. For context, we'd been planning to move out of our parents' houses together in August for a while. We hadn't moved sooner and still couldn't move then because our finances in school. I understand why she wanted to go sooner, and she had considered a shelter if we couldn't afford a place, but obviously I wasn't going to let her do that without offering to stay at my place. I convinced my parents to have her stay in my room, and we signed a contract to be out in 3 months. She's been here for about a month, and in hindsight, I always knew it'd be an adjustment, but the transition has just been making me feel like a villain. Even before she moved in, we used my room mostly since she doesn't like being around her parents, so slowly she began changing my room. First, it was just cleaning and tidying up, then she gave me a specific way to organize my room so she can feel welcome. And even after that, if I don't do my laundry on her time or don't constantly find new ways to shuffle the room around, it's not something she wants to see in her man. And I'm not the cleanest or most organized person either, but while my room wasn't unpresentable by any means, who was I to question someone who takes this as seriously as she does? The most recent argument we had was about ownership and how I bring up things that I own. Her argument is that being that we're trying to make a lasting relationship, and that saying my before these things is inconsiderate and could be manipulative. While I can understand merging lives and sharing things, I can't help but feel individuality and personal ownership is still important as well. Mind you, this time it was pertaining to my phone and why, after she's gone through deleted pics and apps without permission or consent, I'm a little apprehensive about her just taking my phone out of my hands. I've let her see it whenever she asks, but when I have a problem with her just taking it, I'm seen as trying to hide something. This was just the most recent event regarding our ownerships, but this happens when I claim ownership of anything from my car to my PS5. TLDR, how should I refer to my stuff now if I'm dating to marry, and any advice on how to navigate ownership in a relationship without coming off as detached? My parents are pressuring me into family therapy with their questionable therapist. There's a note at the top. First post got deleted, so I'm trying again with some revisions. I, 35-year-old female, grew up in a toxic and dysfunctional household. My mom was emotionally neglected, and my dad was a gaslighting authoritarian with serious anger issues, often getting physically aggressive with my older brother. I could always tell his mood based on his footsteps. Although my mom tried her best to stand up to my dad, she is a people pleaser with low self-esteem and usually submitted to his demands. As you can imagine, this left me with a lot of emotional damage and a 1-2 combo of people pleasing and quick to anger tendencies. I have been undergoing therapy for about 10 years and have seen 5 different professionals. The first was a college counselor. The second was a man my mom knew through church, who was not helpful. And the last 3 have been psychologists I chose. With the help of the psychologists, I have made tremendous strides. I was diagnosed with 4 different disorders, including PTSD, BPD, and prescribed medication that changed my life. And I learned to recognize my triggers and trauma, identified when I was falling back into the old habits, I set boundaries, and advocated for myself. All this progress has led to healing and healthy relationships, increased confidence and self-love, and a solid toolbox of tactics and techniques for navigating difficult situations and disagreements. Collectively, I've spent about 3.5 years trying to mend relationships with my parents, a 72-year-old female and a 73-year-old male. Ultimately, going no contact after the first 2 years of effort. During the no contact period, my mom began individual therapy and made significant progress. Over the last 1.5 years, we've rebuilt our relationship, which has never been better and has become more than anything I cherished with a friend. Recently, my dad also started therapy and has made impressive strides. The problem is that they both see the same therapist, Tammy, who church friends recommended. From what I know, she isn't a licensed psychologist, which aligns with my concerns based on her practices. While I humbly do not consider myself an expert, my experiences lend credibility to my understandings of mental health and self-help, as well as understanding how group therapy and individual sessions work. My mom has shared a lot about Tammy during our reconnections, and I've expressed my worries regarding her approach, namely breaching industry standards by seeing multiple patients with existing relationships, encouraging harmful behavior like my mom's people-pleasing, and verbally reprimanding my dad harshly. This is based on what I've heard secondhand, but about a month ago I decided to humor my parents by having a phone session with Tammy to discuss my dad and the possibility of family or group therapy. I aimed to be introspective and open-minded, putting aside my existing views of Tammy. However, about 10 minutes into the call, I brought up my last conversation with my dad, which involved specific recurring traumatic events. These experiences contributed to my PTSD, so I applied a label I can't disclose here, but my psychologist agreed with my view on it. Tammy quickly dismissed my label and provided her own explanation for why it was incorrect. Despite several minutes of me advocating for myself and my experience, she ultimately said, "Let's move on." Additionally, during our call, Tammy excused herself twice to gather her belongings, get to her car, and drive. After this, I shared my feelings about the session with my mom, who was understandably upset, as she paid for this session. While later she spoke with Tammy, Tammy offered a different explanation, claiming she had to chase after her cat, who had escaped. I would have entirely understood if that were the case, as I'm also a devoted cat guardian, but to me this behavior demonstrated a lack of professionalism and raised serious concerns about my parents' treatment. The final straw was when my mom mentioned that Tammy verbally attacked my dad during a couples session for reverting to old habits. My mom defended this approach, saying, "This is the only way he listens, like a military drill sergeant or sports coach yelling in your face." My response was, "How do you think he got here?" I've tried to remain composed and factual in my discussions with my parents, sharing what I've learned from my past and current psychologists as well as my support group. Side note, my current therapist was horrified by what I described. While I no longer harbor anger towards my dad, I feel compassion for him, understanding how his upbringing shaped the man he is today. The same applies to my mom. I believe that continued abusive methods are not conducive to achieving a healthy, happy self. This is why I established a boundary with my parents regarding Tammy. I refuse to work with someone who practices in this manner. At the same time, she helped my mom, and my dad has made Herculean progress with her. The proposed compromise is that we all meet with her and make a discussion afterwards. Since I have only talked to her once, I find myself torn between maintaining my boundaries, because I don't believe one more session will be beneficial, and the option of just going along with it for the sake of my parents, since it's just one more session. TLDR, my parents' therapist is unprofessional and exhibits harmful practices, and they want to do group therapy with her. I'm now split on maintaining my boundary and going along with just one more session.